Emma thought she had it all figured out. A good job, a small apartment with warm lights and cozy corners, and a love story she thought would last forever. For 3 years, she and Daniel were inseparable. Best friends turned lovers, partners who dreamed together. They planned their future, the house, the wedding, the little details like what their first dog's name would be. Everything felt perfect, until one day, it wasn't. It started with distance. Texts that took longer to reply. Conversations that once lasted hours now ended with one-word answers. Emma tried to understand. Maybe he's just busy. But deep down, she felt it. Something was changing. One night, Daniel showed up at her door. His eyes looked different, tired, distant, guilty. And with one heavy sigh, he said the words she'd never forget. "Emma, I can't do this anymore." Just like that, the person she trusted most walked away. Emma stood frozen as the door closed. Her world, once full of laughter and plans, fell silent. She wanted to call him back, to ask why, to fix it, but all she could do was collapse to the floor and cry. Days turned into weeks. She replayed everything in her head, every message, every memory. She blamed herself. Maybe I wasn't enough. Maybe I loved too much. She stopped eating right, stopped praying, even stopped looking in the mirror, because all she saw was rejection. But one night, while scrolling through old photos, she came across a picture, a photo of her Bible open to Psalm 34:18. She remembered that day. Daniel had taken that photo and captioned it, "God is close to the brokenhearted." And that moment, that verse, hit differently now. Because Emma was broken. And maybe, just maybe, God was still close. She picked up her dusty Bible, opened it, and whispered through tears, "Lord, if you're still here, I need you." No lightning, no booming voice, just a quiet peace that filled the room. The kind of peace she hadn't felt in months.
The next morning, Emma made coffee, sat by the window, and decided to start again. She began writing letters to God in a small notebook. Every page started the same way. "Dear God, it still hurts, but thank you for not leaving." She wrote honestly about the pain, the loneliness, the confusion, but she also wrote about small things she was thankful for: the sunrise, the quiet, the fact that her heart was still beating. It wasn't easy. Some days she cried while writing, but every letter brought her a little closer to healing. Months passed. Daniel moved on. New photos, new life, new memories that no longer included her. And surprisingly, that didn't break her anymore. Because God had been rebuilding what Daniel left shattered, piece by piece, prayer by prayer. Emma started volunteering at church again. She met people who smiled without pretending. She found joy in serving, not because she was healed, but because she realized healing happens while you serve. One Sunday, her pastor said something that stayed with her. Sometimes God removes people not to hurt you, but to make room for Himself. Emma wrote that in her notebook and underlined it twice. And that night, she prayed differently. Not, "God, bring him back," but "God, thank you for staying when he didn't." As time went on, Emma learned to love her own company. She went on solo walks, traveled with friends, and laughed again, the kind of laugh that doesn't need validation. She discovered that her worth was never tied to Daniel's affection, but to God's declaration. And the more she leaned on God, the more she realized that losing someone isn't the end. Sometimes it's the beginning of becoming who you were meant to be.
A year later, Emma walked into the same coffee shop where she and Daniel used to meet. Same spot, same corner table, but a different Emma sat there. She wasn't waiting for anyone this time. She was writing again, her next letter to God. It said, "Dear God, I finally understand. You never left. You just waited for me to see you." She smiled, closed her notebook, and whispered, "Thank you for staying." Emma's story isn't about heartbreak anymore. It's about rediscovery, about finding the kind of love that doesn't leave when life falls apart. Because that's who God is. He stays. When everyone else walks out, He stays. When you feel forgotten, He stays. When your heart breaks, He holds it together. And that's where healing begins. Not when someone returns, but when you realize God never left. If you've ever been where Emma was, if you've cried over a goodbye you didn't see coming, remember this. God isn't punishing you, He's preparing you. Sometimes He lets someone walk away because He wants you to walk closer to Him. And one day, when you look back, you'll thank Him, not for what you lost, but for what you found in the process. Peace, purpose, and your true worth in Christ. He left, but God stayed. And that's enough.